What's up, YouTube? This is an EJ2 Track Rat YouTube channel episode, and today I'm going to be talking about ways that you can save money on your golden era 90s Honda. One of the most common things that I see new people do when they come to the track is they get like drilled and slotted performance rotors from Brembo or from StopTech, and they put them on their otherwise completely stock car. For an HPDE car, or a track day car, or even my race car, you're perfectly fine with blank rotors. So the first thing that you can save money on for your golden era Honda at a track day is on your brake rotors. These brake rotors in particular are Amazon $13 a piece brake rotors. Why do I have this light inside of my wheel well, you might ask? Well, YouTube, I'll tell you why I have this light inside of my wheel well. The next thing I'm going to talk about for saving money on your golden era track day Honda is your front upper control arm. These specific front upper control arms are actually Skunk 2 upper control arms on my race car, and the only reason I'm running them is because I got them for free from a friend. They were bent, I fixed them, and then I put them on my car. With that being said, for years I ran eBay front upper control arms. The only difference in the eBay front upper control arm that you're going to see is usually they have cheaper bushings up here. And so when you install the front upper control arm, you have to clock the bushings correctly. If you do that and you run the control arms from eBay, 9 out of 10 times you're probably fine. What's the next thing that you can cheap out on your golden era Honda on? The next thing you can cheap out on your golden era Honda on is intake tubing. So the particular intake tubing that I have on my car, you're wondering why it's held together with zip ties and rubber that I taped together with Gorilla Tape. That intake is made out of mailing tube and eBay intake piping. I'm not saying you need to go that cheap. I'm not saying your car needs to be that radically cheap. What I am saying is that intake tubing and intake systems can be found for pretty cheap on eBay. If you go on eBay, you can probably find a cold air intake for an Acura Integra, which will match the throttle body size you need and everything, for $50. Comes with the filter, it comes with all the couplings, it comes with the worm gear clamps, and at that point you have a car that's going to pretty much do what you need it to do. Really, if you're trying to get out on track and you're trying to do it fast and you want to get a cold air intake on the car for an extra 3 horsepower or whatever it is, go on eBay, spend $40 to $50, and there you go, you got an intake. The next thing that you can cheap out on your Honda track day car is your rear sway bar. So as you can see, I'm not just running any regular sway bar, I am running an ASR hollow bar. This is essentially a NASCAR bar bolted to the back of a Civic, and these bars are rather expensive. If you're doing HPDE or track days, an eBay sway bar will suffice. As long as you have the right ride frequency, front and rear, which means that you've taken into account your spring rate and your sway bar stiffness, you should get close. The car doesn't need to be set up perfectly for HPDE or track days. It needs to be set up well enough so that you can be reasonably fast, have a good time, and teach yourself how to drive. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. On my race car, you might have noticed that I'm running Hasport motor mounts. Hasport motor mounts are great. The fitment is awesome. They bolt right up. They designed all that stuff. They're pretty much the originators of engine swaps in a way, I guess, on a commercial level for the Honda market, and they started out in the 90s doing stuff. They're OGs. Those guys know what they're doing. But as with any part for a golden era Honda, there will be knockoffs. With that being said, if you are in a pinch and you need to save some money, the one thing that I can say is there are knockoff engine mounts out there that you can run in your golden era Honda as a track day car, as a DE car, and you'll get by fine. The only caveat is those mounts do not have great fitment. You have to fiddle with them a little bit when you're dropping the motor into the car. It's not exactly fun, but it's not terribly hard. If you're looking to save $150 to $200, it's worth it. On this specific car, I'm running these headers. These headers are scratch and dent 1320 headers that I got on eBay. If you go on eBay and you search for scratch and dent B series header, scratch and dent D series header, scratch and dent K series header, you can find headers that make good power on these motors, and they're relatively cheap. This header was $225 shipped to my door. I make competitive power on an H4 setup with this header. This next talking point comes with a caveat. So the reason that this next talking point requires a caveat is because I've only run 2 motors in this chassis, and they've both been non-VTEC motors. The first motor that I ran in this car was the stock motor, a D15B7 with an intake tube and a fart can. And then the second motor that I ran in it was a stock B18B1 with intake, header, exhaust, and a stock ECU with a fuel pressure regulator tune. In both cases, I was able to run an OEM style radiator. A lot of people think that you need to get a fancy radiator to replace it so that the car can run. If you're doing HPDE or if you're doing track days, you don't need to spend all that money on a fancy radiator. I was able to get by on eBay OEM knockoffs that cost me $40 for a full-size radiator and probably $30 for a half-size radiator. Now I'm running a Mishimoto unit in the car. I'm competing for championships and for contingencies, and the car is competitive. It needs to have good cooling. I want to make sure that it's reliable. But for an HPDE car or a track day car, I was totally fine with the OEM knockoff stuff. You can cheap out there. Instead of spending $200 on a nice radiator, spend $40 on a full-size radiator with plastic end tanks, and you're probably fine in a non-VTEC car. I'm definitely going to get some hate for this last one, but if you're looking to cheap out on your Golden Era Honda for track days and HPDE, cheap out on wheels. So why am I saying you can cheap out on wheels? I'm saying it because I'm not assuming that you're going to go buy square, oblong, bent, cracked wheels for your car. I'm saying you can cheap out on wheels because wheels are a wear item when you start tracking your car. If you're gonna do HPDE or track days, you don't need a Volk TE37. You don't need a Work Emotion CR Kai. You don't need a BBS RS. Should I go on? All you need is a round wheel to mount your tire on. This car in particular uses 15x7 wheels. My rain set was $100. My practice set was 5 Borbits that I got for $200 with snow tires. I then drove those Borbits on my daily driver at the time for several hundred miles, and then after I was done driving my daily in the snow, I took the map tires off the wheels, and then I used the wheels on my race car, and the spare wheel's still sitting in my basement with a snow tire. I didn't make this video to encourage people to buy garbage parts, and I'm not saying that they're perfect. I'm not saying they're going to get you to the front of the field if you're racing or if you're doing time trial, but what I am saying is if you're trying to get your Golden Era Honda on track, you don't really need to worry about all those fancy parts. A lot of the parts on my car have been upgraded over a long period of time. When I bought my Honda Civic, it was completely stock except for a fart can and a white painted dash bezel. I tracked my car with a lowering kit and an Integra suspension with a stock motor and stock everything else for a year. And after that I started upgrading safety equipment and little things here and there. The car that you see today with all of the nice parts isn't the car that it was when I first started hitting the track. When I first started hitting the track, the car was really super basic. It still had a full interior. I was sleeping in the back seat at some events. And it had eBay parts almost everywhere. It had a D15B7. It made less horsepower in a straight line than a Miata did. I didn't spend my time trying to make the car fast. I spent the time trying to make myself fast as a driver. So if you're gonna sit there and worry about, should I get $250 camber arms instead of $40 camber arms, and you're just getting into track days, get the $40 camber arms. I'm telling you here, I've used them on my car. They work fine. Either way, thank you guys for watching this video. It was intended to be like a short informational video. I hope you guys liked it. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share it if you think it's useful. And if you hate it, cool. Tell people that you hate it, and then give me a thumbs down and tell me that I suck. I don't care. But either way, I appreciate you watching because that means that you took the time to get this far. And I'm just going to keep doing my thing, regardless if people like it or not. And, you know, thanks for watching the EJ2 Track Rat channel. That's what we're all about. We're all about giving people the ability to get on track for cheap, show people how to be raw and gritty and fast on track, and that's what we do. That's what we do. So, thank you for watching so much. I really appreciate it. And you guys have a great time doing whatever the hell it is you're doing. I'm going to go back inside.